And while Falcon 9's first stage is landing, Dragon is preparing to separate from the second stage. About 3 minutes after the second stage gets into orbit, we should have a great view of Dragon with its 4-person crew drifting away from the second stage. Now, once Dragon is a short distance away, it will begin checking out its Draco maneuvering thrusters to make sure Dragon continues to increase separation distance from the second stage.
And lastly, the nose cone deploy sequence will initiate just before T plus 12 minutes and finish around T plus 15 minutes. And this sequence will expose Dragon's docking mechanism in advance of its arrival at the International Space Station. So, as you can tell, it's a pretty jam-packed 12 minutes.
Yeah, pay attention. Pay close attention to what you're listening to.
Don't blink. With all of that in mind, let's head back over to Dan Hewitt for an update from the ISS team over at Johnson Space Center. Dan?
Hey, thanks, Kate. Now, inside the room, the International Space Station Flight Control Room, Flight Director Scott Stover is leading the teams right now. But just about 4 hours ago, NASA Flight Director Diane Daly gave a go on behalf of the combined ISS team to the SpaceX mission director, just saying that ISS, or the space station, was go for launch. Now, to get there, we've got a list of flight rules, basically just guidelines for all of the major systems we have to make sure are functioning on board station before we can give a go to launch another crew up there. So we're looking at everything from those core critical command and control computers, verifying we have a good communication path through our tracking and data relay satellites, ensuring that the atmosphere, all of the life support systems on board are functioning, even the mechanical systems like the docking port where this mission is headed. So we're expecting today's flight to be about a 20.5-hour journey from launch to docking, with the Crew Dragon Endeavour headed towards the Node 2 Zenith. That's the space-facing port on the top of Node 2, the Harmony module on board the station. And once they get there, they're going to get welcomed by the Expedition 67 crew, which is made up of 7 individuals right now, 4 from our SpaceX through Crew 3, 445 for the teams over in Hawthorne. And so once they get there, they'll be able to get out of their suits on board the Dragon spacecraft, while the team on board station moves into what's known as the hatch operations. Station Commander Tom Marchand is going to be pressurizing that small area between Dragon and the station hatches. We expect it to be a little under 2 hours from docking to hatch open, and then we'll welcome the AX-1 crew on board the space station. So a lot to come with that 20.5-hour journey, but all that's going to start with a launch. So I'll send it back over to Hawthorne as we get into the final phases of the countdown. Back over to you, John.
Right. Well, Dan, as you mentioned, it all starts with the launch. And Kate, it's looking like it's getting pretty busy here. People are excited about seeing a launch, right?
Yeah, we're just now under 20 minutes until liftoff. As you could probably tell by the noise, the crew here, excuse me, the crowd here in Hawthorne, we're at SpaceX headquarters in Hawthorne, California, is starting to gather just beyond mission control here in the building. And you might be able to tell by the ambient noise, in addition to the live production noises that you also hear. You know, we are in a rocket factory. But yeah, you can see there the crowd is starting to grow behind the team there at Hawthorne Mission Control. Now, we saw Dan speaking earlier from Mission Control in Johnson. There is a Mission Control Center in Florida where the SpaceX teams are also gathered in Firing Room 4. And then we have the Mission Control Center here. There's a shot of our Firing Room 4 there in Florida at Cape Canaveral. You can just barely make out Pad 39A there in the distance there through the window. Might be wondering why all the different mission control rooms. The one in Johnson, as Dan was saying, you know, that's really mission control for the International Space Station and those operations. The control room that you see there is for everything leading up to launch. As soon as Falcon 9 lifts off, responsibility and control transfers to Mission Control Center here in Hawthorne. So just a quick explanation for why so many rooms with computers.
Exactly. Yeah, and in addition to all the teams gathering here, we've got teams of our own gathering in Houston at Axiom headquarters. You can see there on your screen Axiom Mission Control with the lovely Axiom family behind them looking in proudly. All right, well, you know, Dan mentioned that, you know, first we have launch, then we got rendezvous and docking, and then we've got 8 days of jam-packed activity on the ISS.
So busy.
Yeah, and docking day it's not just a ride to space, right? You get up there, you open that hatch, and crew is working. I got a little chance to look at some of their timeline, and as soon as they open that door, they are getting invited in, they are getting trained on some emergency procedures, and then stepping right into payload activities, stowage transfers, and just generally getting acclimated, but they're working before they go to sleep, and the work doesn't stop there.
It sounds a lot like everything leading up to launch itself. Everything is scheduled, planned. Even, we know that even sleep time is scheduled on the ISS. And something that's incredible to me is that not only do you have work to do, your science experiments and that kind of stuff, not only do you have to get some sleep,
or you can,
but you also have to exercise, right? Yeah. The exercise time, which can be a couple hours.
Stage 2 LOX load has started.
All right, so good news there. We have begun LOX load, liquid oxygen loading on second stage. So that is currently underway for first and second stage, as well as loading of RP1, which is our fuel on both first and second stages.
Right. Right, and again, some of those things that he talked about, it's all following a timeline, right? And we are listening for those important cues along the way that we're hearing on these nets or on the loops, listening for where are we along in that timeline, so we know exactly where we are in terms for launch as we count down at just T-15 from launch.
Yeah, so I'm looking at my dashboard here. It looks like fuel load on second stage is now complete. So we're beginning that LOX load as we just heard. LOX load and fuel load continues on first stage. Axiom crew continuing to wait, following along with everything happening there with the touchscreen displays there above them, as well as their tablets strapped to their legs.
Right.
Everything continuing to look nominal for liftoff in just about 15 minutes.
And as we approach that liftoff, in these final moments of our countdown to launch, Axiom Space founders Cam Gaffarian and Mike Suffredini wanted to take a moment to reflect on this mission.
Well, this moment for me and Michael is a very special moment in a beginning of many beginnings, right? The launch of AX-1 going to International Space Station as part of our journey to build the first private commercial space station. And we're so grateful to be here and delighted at this moment as part of this incredible journey to commercialize and privatize low Earth orbit.
On behalf of Cam and I, we'd like to thank the entire team that's made this historic journey possible. The SpaceX team in particular has done a tremendous job of prepping our crew for a launch on their transportation vehicle. The crew itself has done a fantastic job of getting themselves ready and planning their research. NASA, of course, we can't do this without NASA's leadership and support. And to each of you in the Axiom Space family, we couldn't have done it without you. We're looking forward to a bright future together.
T-minus 14 minutes, 7 seconds, and continuing to count down. Everything is still looking good for launch of Falcon 9 and Dragon. That'll occur 17 minutes and 12 seconds after the hour. As a recap, Falcon 9 began propellant loading at T-minus 35 minutes. We just heard loading of the RP1 fuel. The kerosene fuel on stage 2 was completed right on time at T-minus 20 minutes. We've still got fuel going onto the first stage. Looks like we're about 90% or so full right now. Fuel loading will finish up at T-minus 6 minutes, and we'll hear that call out in the countdown. Meanwhile, densified liquid oxygen is continuing to load onto both the first and second stages. First stage will close out at T-minus 3 minutes. The second stage, we just began loading liquid oxygen at T-minus 16.5 minutes just a few minutes ago. That'll wrap up at the T-minus 2 minute mark. Now we load the liquid oxygen as late as we can in the countdown. It's densified, that means it's ultra cold, well below the boiling point of liquid oxygen. That lets us put as much as we can on the vehicle for performance, and getting it on board the vehicle just before liftoff means it won't warm up, where you start to lose the ability to put liquid oxygen onto the stages, into the tank. In the quantities we want. So it stays nice and cold, it doesn't bleed off, and that gives us the performance we need on Falcon 9. Continuing on, Falcon 9, checkouts of the thrust vector controllers, what we call TVC wiggles, you may hear that term, they're coming up. We're also going to be doing throttle valve checkouts on the Merlin engines. That helps control the power of the engines as we go through flight. For example, you hear a throttle down or throttle up as we prepare for the period of maximum dynamic pressure. As we come up on the 12-minute mark, the range continues to be go. Roadblocks are up. All the hazard areas are clear. Airspace, sea space is good. The weather is go. Beautiful shots you can see here. Blue skies. I'm looking forward to some great views from the cameras as we head into space. And then finally on the Dragon side, the Dragon mission director and team, they're reporting no issues. We've done the communication checkouts with the crew. You can see the crew access arm has retracted into the launch position. You can see Dragon now with the strung back of the transport erector, and the umbilical is going to Dragon alongside of it. We've also armed the launch escape system, and obviously the crew is strapped in the Dragon capsule and they're ready to go. Final instructions of the crew will come in about a minute and a half at T-10. We'll listen to that. The crew displays will be configured for launch, and that setup will give the crew insight into how the launch is proceeding, and it provides constant updates on vehicle health. At T-5 minutes, we'll be in the terminal count for Dragon. Dragon will transition to internal power, going to its onboard batteries and off of the external ground power. We're going to hear continued callouts on the countdown net as we go from T-10 to 0, and then as we fly after T0 and liftoff, we'll hear callouts as we head into space. And that'll be letting the crew know as they reach each of the milestones. Now, next big event coming up at T-10 minutes is we're going to do launch commit criteria, and final instructions will be going to the crew. One other thing that you will hear is during ascent you may hear 1 alpha, 1 bravo, 2 alpha. These are launch escape states. As the Falcon 9 flies, if a launch escape was required, the crew on board knows where they are passing various points in the countdown, and that would tell Dragon what sequence of events to execute to come off of the Falcon 9 and bring the crew back safely down under the parachutes in the ocean. Right now, T-10 minutes. Let's listen in to the countdown now.
Dragon, SpaceX, confirmed crew displays are configured for launch.
SpaceX Endeavour, we confirm they're configured.
Copy MLA, and on behalf of the entire SpaceX team, we're honored to have you aboard Endeavour for its 3rd flight to the International Space Station. Axiom 1 marks a new step in commercial spaceflight and research. We wish you a great mission, good luck, Godspeed, and enjoy the ride.
Thanks for those words, Arthur. I've got a few of my own. I'm going to let my crewmate Eitan say it first, though.
שלום. כמה ימים לפני שאנחנו מציינים את המסע הגדול שלנו לחירות, and a few minutes before launching on this journey, I wish to share with you the words of the Greek poet Constantine Cavafy that well describe the perspective of our marvelous crew. Keep Ithaca always in your mind. Arriving there is what you are destined for, but do not hurry the journey at all. Better if it lasts for years. So you are old by the time you reach the island, wealthy with all you have gained on the way, not expecting Ithaca to make you rich. Ithaca gave you this marvelous journey. בהצלחה X1, בהצלחה רקיע.
Thank you, Eitan. I'm going to continue far less elegantly or eloquently, but as we sit here on the precipice of this new era in human spaceflight, we do so on the shoulders of professionals at SpaceX, NASA, and Axiom. We want to thank all the teams at SpaceX, Falcon 9, Dragon, the launch team, of course, closeout team, all of the folks in mission control, and of course our training teams. With NASA, boy, it's been tough. You know, the first time was always hard, and there's no playbook. It's all open field running, but with ISS program, commercial LEO development, and flight operations, we've learned a lot, and we'll continue to do so. We want to thank Cam and Seth for their vision, but especially all the people at Axiom for putting this mission together with the amount of miracles that they performed. all of you, make no mistake, are the men and the women in the arena. Your faces are marred, if metaphorically, by the best sweat and blood, and you strive valiantly. You will have no place with the cold and timid souls who know neither victory nor defeat. The crew of the great ship Endeavour is ready to sail her proudly, Arthur.
Some heartfelt words there.
Stage 1 engine chill has started.
All right, so there was the call that we have begun to chill the engines on the first stage. So what we're doing right now is flowing a little bit of the super chilled liquid oxygen through the turbo pumps on those M1D engines. There's 9 of them at the base of the first stage. And that's essentially bringing them down to the temperature of that super chilled liquid oxygen to prevent any thermal shock to the hardware. Just before that call, some really heartfelt words from Commander MLA and Mission Specialist Eitan Stiba. Really love hearing that commentary.
Stage 1 RP load is complete.